Hello and welcome back to the show. Today's episode of the Scottish Crypto Show is going to look at Bitcoin adoption amidst widespread social unrest across the world. But first, please like and subscribe on YouTube and follow us on Twitter at ScotsmanCrypto. So before starting, I just wanted to share this. Visa reported over the weekend that crypto-linked card usage hit $2.5 billion in its first quarter of 2022. So clearly crypto adoption is growing and growing. This was 70% of the total crypto card usage in the whole of 2021. So great to see a company like Visa really sharing this information and celebrating it. Okay, so first up, the Canada truck protesters. They made a convoy from Vancouver to Ottawa last week, culminating in a mass protest at the weekend. Truck drivers were angry at vaccine mandates, meaning when they cross from the USA back to Canada, they have to quarantine for 14 days if they've not had double vaccinated. While these mandates impact the truck drivers, they're causing chaos as shops run low on essential groceries and fuel stations run out of petrol. The truck drivers formed the convoy, which at one point spanned 45 miles, being joined by supporters and farmers groups while being cheered all along the route. While the Prime Minister of Canada described this as a fringe group, it's clear to see that these were more than a fringe group. These truck drivers struck a chord with a large number of Canadians, not necessarily people that were against the vaccine, but just don't like being told what to do. On top of this, you had Elon Musk, Donald Trump and Russell Brand all highlighting the truck drivers' cause, because, more scarily, the national media barely covered this. Next up, we have thousands of protesters gathering in Europe's capitals, protesting against vaccine mandates and rules. Now, while I have no opinion on the vaccine mandate, it does seem that people are tired of being told what to do and being forced to do something with little or questionable data to back up the rules. They also see politicians flaunt the rules and disregard counter-arguments. It's clear to see why trust is being eroded when, if you argue against something, your livelihood or your job comes into question. While politicians gather in parties, they fly around the world for COP26 and they disregard any rules that are imposed upon themselves. Lastly, we see that the NHS in England is deciding to reverse its decision to mandate vaccines to frontline staff. The NHS in England has over 100,000 vacancies right now, and a vaccine mandate would put at risk a further 77,000 jobs, which the NHS just can't afford. With wait times exceeding even the bare minimum NHS requirement, and people waiting on standard surgery and operations, there's no way they could afford to lose 77,000 people. But what's interesting is that this is nurses and doctors deciding they don't want the vaccine. If the government's not willing to listen to them, then who are they going to listen to? And that's why these protests are so important. It shows that when people get together and they actually effectively protest, they can achieve change. It's clear to see people are fighting back against mandates, but are they fighting back against the mandate, or are they fighting back against being told what to do without an alternative opinion being listened to? It's also interesting to see that most of these protests that we've looked at are all in the developed nations, some of the big nations, Canada, Finland, France, England. They're not in developing nations where actual vaccine mandates are non-existent. People are losing trust in their politicians, and they're losing trust in being told what to do without being able to argue back. And we see this with the next slide, where we show that the Joe Rogan Experience podcast outstrips every media company in the States by miles. The next closest, Tucker Carlson, at 3.24 million viewers, when Joe Rogan's getting 11 million. And the key difference is that he looks at alternative views, he debates, and if he's wrong, he admits he's wrong, apologises, and then gets it right the next time. Whereas these media companies are basically PR companies for pharmaceutical companies and big tech companies. But is all this unrest escalated by COVID just a rejection of the traditional systems? People are fed up of being told what to do by the few. And if we look at this pyramid now, it shows that the smallest 1% of the population actually controls 45.8% of the world's wealth. That is a ridiculous figure, and it's only getting worse. Every year that seems to get worse. So is Bitcoin adoption actually a response to this centralised nature of finance and the legacy systems? Bitcoin is decentralised, meaning no government has control over it. Doesn't have a CEO, doesn't have a policymaker, and can't be manipulated to increase supply. There's 21 million bitcoins that will ever be minted, and that's the most that can be created. So Bitcoin is massively deflationary compared to a fiat currency, which effectively inflates every single year. On top of this, it allows people to escape traditional finance, secure their wealth away from the interference of government, and you don't need massive wealth to begin buying. You can buy from as little as £5. It allows people to send money across borders and have access to their money wherever they need it, which is really important, especially in these times of social unrest. You look at Russia and Ukraine, people fleeing Ukraine, they need access to their money, and if it's in Bitcoin, they can access it anywhere they are in the world with just a phone signal. It's not just an investment. Bitcoin's not just about investing and getting rich. It's a rejection of traditional banking, it's a rejection of monetary policy, it's a rejection of big government, and that's why we're seeing massive growth in Republican politicians in the States adopting Bitcoin, because it aligns with a lot of their policy ideas. As more government's legitimacy is called into question, Bitcoin adoption is only going to increase, and with institutional adoption, you've got to wonder why big banks are so scared of Bitcoin. We saw the IMF question El Salvador's policy to adopt Bitcoin, but in the same breath, the IMF congratulated El Salvador on its response to COVID. Despite no vaccine mandates, they said that El Salvador was going to grow at over 3% this year. So on the one hand, they criticised their monetary policy, but on the other hand, they're saying well done on their growth. It seems a bit contradictory to me. When the IMF's worried about your monetary policy, you're probably doing something right, because you're scaling back their influence. And the more we can grow Bitcoin, the more we can scale back big traditional legacy financial systems influence on the world. Thanks for watching. Again, I believe Bitcoin adoption is a rejection of the traditional finance system. I think we're only going to see Bitcoin adoption grow. We've saw Visa, JP Morgan, PayPal all make U-turns on their decision about crypto. We can also see a lot of politicians in the States starting to adopt it. We even saw Matt Hancock in the UK address cryptocurrency concerns about the UK being left behind. This is only going to go one way, and it's going to be massive in the next few years. So it's great to see how early everyone that's watching is to the Bitcoin space. Please like and subscribe on YouTube and follow us on Twitter at Scotsman Crypto. And there's some links in the description for a Telegram group, which I suggest you join as well. Thanks very much.